Only when the last tree has died and the last river has been poisoned and the last fish being caught will we realize we cannot eat money. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Nice to be back on the show after a lapse of a week. It was Sonali Wanigabadi who was hosting the show last week. Tonight on the show we're discussing about energy. Are we moving towards an energy crisis in Sri Lanka at present? Do we have the right alternatives in place? If that is the case, what is the government's policy as far as energy is concerned? Now, just a few months ago, we saw President Maithripala Sirisena attending the International Solar Alliance in New Delhi. Now, precisely the date, 11th of March 2018. The world is of the opinion that Sri Lanka is moving towards a very ambitious target, that is to make renewable energy the only source of energy in Sri Lanka by the year 2050. Are we deceiving the international community? What is the corruption involved in all this and more? To discuss this topic tonight, we have several guests invited to our studios this evening as well. Let me very quickly introduce them to you. Joining us this evening is Dr. Janaka Ratnasiri, Consultant Energy Sector. Nice to have you on board, Dr. Ratnasiri. Also joining us this evening is Dr. S. Bhattacharya, Secretary, Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Nice to have you back on the show once again, Dr. Bhattacharya. Also joining us tonight after a lapse of a few months is Mr. Asoka Begunwardana, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. Joining us tonight on the show is the very vocal Kirti Tendakon, representing the Anti-Corruption Front. Nice to have you on board as well, Kirti. All joining us tonight from the Engineers Union is Engineer Dr. H.M. Vijayakon Banda, Chief Engineer, Transmission Planning, Ceylon Electricity Board. Nice to have you on board as well, Engineer Vijayakon Banda. Let's start off tonight's show with Asoka Begunwardana, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. Asoka, interestingly, the government seemed to have a policy when good governance came into practice in the year 2015. Most of the things have now been pushed away and is now out of the window. Energy policy all seems to be, unfortunately, one of them. We saw President Maithripala Sirisena having the Surya Balasangramya last year, saying about how important solar energy is in Sri Lanka. We saw the President attending the New Delhi conference on the 11th of March 2018, again highlighting the fact that solar energy, renewable energy is the way forward for Sri Lanka. However, now the talk is about 30% of coal being included for the national power grid in the next few years. Are we losing track here again? What is your opinion?
Well, we need to understand in which context we are discussing this matter, because I don't see there's a significant change in the national policy relating to energy, because we had a policy document in 2008. After that, now a decade after, still that policy principles are valid. Now the issue is not the policy but the plan. The plan is not based on the policy. So the principles are the same, but how they interpret while doing the planning exercise was the issue. First of all, we need to understand the nature of the issue. The key issue is the demand. The electricity demand in Sri Lanka is roughly increasing at a rate of 5% per annum. So year by year we have to add new power plants to cater to the increasing demand. So the long-term generation plan is to cater to that increasing demand. So while catering to that demand, we need to look into both aspects, that's energy efficiency, energy conservation, and also the power generation side. So this policy which was there right throughout this period clearly spelled that we need to have major emphasis towards energy conservation, energy efficiency, and also we need to move towards indigenous resources and clean energy. So that's the general policy. I don't see that has changed during this period.
So when you speak about clean energy, does that mean coal is also part of this clean energy process?
No, actually now when we are defining the clean energy, there's a global trend towards this. Now we witnessed that during the industrial revolution, and after that the human civilization mainly started with coal and then switched to fossil fuels, that's oil and natural gas. Now we have realized that this is not the way forward, because we have achieved certain things but we cannot sustain with fossil fuels. We have to find new solutions. That's why we say coal and also to a greater extent oil is dirty. So we need to explore the other options. There we come across the term renewable energy, which means that we are not touching the fossil fuels, and there's a greater discussion regarding replacing that with nuclear as well. So clean energy does mean that we will be mainly concentrating on renewables. This is a worldwide trend, and simultaneously we need to develop our plans accordingly.
Now you speak about the worldwide trend, you speak about not having a proper plan, and then we have coal power plants being built in Sri Lanka in the future. Is that based on the plan that we have?
That's exactly the point we are discussing right now. Now the CEB came up with a formula which suggested that we need to construct 2,700 megawatts of coal plants for the future, in addition to what we have right now, 900 megawatts. So are we going to agree to that, or we are going to for a different plan? That's what we are discussing right now.
Thank you very much. Asoka Abatement, Chairman of the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. I now move my attention to Dr. Janaka Ratnasri, Consultant, Energy Sector. Dr. Ratnasri, it seems like a good plan. However, this is not what Sri Lanka envisaged for the future. Coal power plants being built, because just a few years ago we celebrated when President Sirisena said that the Sampur coal power plant is not going to be built. It was a victory for media, it was a victory for environmentalists. However, now the energy policy directs us again to coal power. What's happening?
Actually, if you refer to the President's wish, last January, this year January, there was a cabinet paper submitted to the President proposing to build 2 coal power plants, and President, it was shown to the public on the TV. He said that in future they should not submit such proposals without getting it first approved by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka. And he found fault with the 2 ministers for submitting the proposal. So that time he was not in favor of the coal power plants. Then this month, apparently there had been a cabinet paper where it is again proposed to implement the plan submitted by the CEB, which was not approved by the PUCSL. And there, according to media reports, President has said that the PUCSL should implement the CEB plan without delaying it. Now there, what happened was that before that meeting, there was a meeting with the CEB officials, and there was a threat by the union that they would take trade union action if their plan is not implemented. Now the point is that when you talk about the CEB plan, it is not just one plan. It has number of several cases. One is a base case, and what was referred earlier saying that they are going to add 2,700 megawatt coal power plants is in the base case. Then it has several others. One is to meet the high demand and the low demand, and also no coal option. Now this no coal option case has all gas power plants, not a single coal power plant. So if you are talking about the CEB plan, you must also consider the this no coal option case where they are going to add all gas power plants.
But the argument that has been brought forward by the CEB Engineers Union is the fact about clean coal. Oh, what's clean coal?
Well, there's no such thing as a clean coal, because now they probably are referring to this super critical coal power plant or the ultra supercritical coal power plant, where the efficiency is higher than the conventional plant. They may have lower emissions of gases, polluting gases, but they still release large quantities of ash, and that ash is very toxic, contains mercury, arsenic and other toxic metals. And even with the so-called clean coal power plant, the amount of ash will be released, which is bad for the health of the people. Now, in the case of the gas power plants, there's no such ash at all, and there's no hassle of mitigating the emissions, and it's totally, those plants are flexible, can meet both base load and the peak load, unlike in the case of the coal power plants, which is only meant for base load.
Thank you very much, Dr. Janaka Ratnasiri, consultant in the energy sector. I now move my attention to engineer Dr. H.M. Vijay Banda, Chief Engineer, Transmission Planning, CEB. Mr. Banda, we just heard the remarks made by Dr. Ratnasiri saying that there is nothing called clean coal. It still produces a lot of ash, and then this produces mercury, and this is bad for the health of citizens of Sri Lanka as a whole. What is your argument?
Yeah, I mean, so I will start, what is the CB role actually? The CB role is actually to prepare a generation expansion plan with the, identifying best available power plant. And the other thing is we have to meet the technical requirement of the system. So we have to see the system as well as we have to see the least cost options. So based on those principles, the CB plan has been prepared. And coming back to the, then the outcome is, it's documented, and there is a process and things have been submitted for the approval. So coming back to your question, the clean coal, actually, so like, the term they use, the clean coal is actually, as Dr. Ratnasiri told, because they are using the high efficient technology. The technology is used to increase the efficiency, so that the output, the generation, the kilowatt hour generation, we can use less amount of coal, so that efficiency has increased if you use less amount of coal, so that the carbon dioxide emission will be reduced. So that is the, the technology we are, proposing, because now, according to these, the heavy metal and all those kind of things, because every, power plant, whatever power plant, whether it's a coal power plant or the combined cycle power plant, so we have to go with all the environmental approvals. So therefore, there are so many environmental clearances. There are percentage that sulfur content, the carbon dioxide emission, and all those kind of things we have to meet. So therefore, technologies are there to mitigate those kind of things.
My question is very simple. Let's talk about the Sampur coal power plant, which was supposed to be built in the eastern province of Sri Lanka. Why was this cancelled?
So that is also, we don't know why it was cancelled.
I can tell you why. One of the reasons was about the environmental hazards.
So we have, it was to be commissioned in very early stage, about in the 2015 or 2016. So because we have, we have battled for 10 years for getting all the approvals for the environmental clearances, social problems, and all those kind of problems. So we have obtained everything. And at the last stage, when it was to be tendered, that was cancelled.
But Dr. Vijay Banda, the reason for it being cancelled was environmental hazards.
No, I don't think, because environmentally it was cleared. How can we say that?
You saw environmentalists going to courts, getting petitions against the commissioning of this power plant. We saw protests being held across Sri Lanka against the power plant. There was ample. I can give you dates as well if you really require.
Let's say at all that I don't know why it was cancelled. Because all of a sudden it was cancelled. because we believe that we have cleared all the barriers, I mean required environmental conditions, the power plant to be tendered, so that it is to be procured.
So the power plant that is going to be built, the coal power plant that is going to be built, is just several kilometers away from the Sampur power plant. We're talking about the foul point area. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
I mean, we are talking about the
future,
the proposed one.
Yes, the proposed one. So we are going to again have the same problems in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we have to start from the beginning. The land clearance, feasibility, and all those kind of things, we have to start from the beginning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay Konbanda. Dr. Vijay Konbanda is the Chief Engineer Transmission Planning of the Ceylon Electricity Board. I now move my attention to Dr. S. Bhattaguda, Secretary, Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Dr. Bhattaguda, you've been the Secretary for some time now, and if I ask you whether you're doing a great job, you probably would say, my task is to ensure that there is no emergency power in Sri Lanka. But my question to you is going to be a bit different. When we know coal power is bad for Sri Lankan citizens as a whole, why are we going ahead with such a project? The time starts now.
No, see, this different opinion people have. Some people say coal power bad. That is mainly due to the environmental reason, I believe. In terms of cost, of course, engineers are telling this coal power unit cost is cheaper. But coal power bad because of this so-called environmental issues we are talking about. But technology is such very advanced in the world. But any environmental impact can be mitigated almost 100%. Maybe it's cost. Dr. Apasri was talking about this supercritical power plant. The coal, there are many type of technologies. There is normal coal power plant, subcritical, supercritical, ultra supercritical, so many technologies. If there's a environmental issue, basically we can mitigate. So only cost. If you have a sulfur dioxide emission, dust, we can trap this. If the ash issue, of course, ash can manage, can be covered, put it in the building or something. So just because of the sometime environmental issues there, but if technology can address those issues, why just stop it? But not in Sri Lanka. A lot of countries are using coal. But what they do is, they just don't stop because of.
But do you agree with the fact that there is environmental hazards because of establishing or commissioning coal power plants?
No, it's not correct. Power sector, if you say mini hydro, major hydro, solar, wind, diesel, every power plant has problem. We are struggling to get the mini hydro power plant, small power plant. Big protest. Major hydros, big protest. As you remember, Upper Kotmale hydropower project, 15 years it took, big fight, lot of environmental lobbies, almost stopped there. Now we are doing this Mana wind power plant, wind power, which is more renewables. Big fight. Last 10 years we are struggling. Even last 5 years after I came, I wanted to tender this wind power plant 2015. Still we could not do it. We have a 10 megawatt wind plant at Chunnakam. Last 2 years we couldn't do it because of bird issue. So every sector, power plant, not a power plant, transmission line, distribution line, every project has an environmental impact. People don't like this. That's the facts. But question is, because of the environmental issue, shall we stop every single development? Shall we stop all the major hydros? Shall we stop all the mini hydros? Shall we stop all the wind park? Shall we stop all the coal plant? It doesn't work like this. Every single power project in the country, maybe you will understand, we are facing significant difficulties. Even the transmission line, they are struggling all the way. So just the environment is there. But question is, we must understand people's issue, and technology must introduce to address this issue and mitigate.
Dr. Bhattaguda, you say about mitigating. You just said that word in your last sentence as well. If there are environmental hazards, we have to mitigate it. Precisely. Why haven't we done it for the last so many years?
We are doing. We are doing even, this is Rochester coal power plant is the first ever coal plant in the country. Engineers has a new experience. If Noractolo is built now, it should have been built differently. I'm 100% sure. Now, at least,
So how do you mitigate this problem?
because for example, environmental clearance, Norachole power plant, the major issue they are talking about the Abatement is emission. High sulfur dioxide emissions, some particle size emission, all these stuck emissions. So there was environmental strict conditions. So sulfur dioxide emission has to be trapped 100%. There was electrostatic precipitator or some technology. If you go and say Norachole power plant, from the stack almost zero emission, nothing, because of the environmental condition. Issue is ash and the coal dust.
Yeah.
At the time, they should have not been thought about it actually. My personal
You are
opinion
trying to say that experts who came to build the Norachole coal power plant did not realize that there was coal
no,
ash?
I think you see, when they were getting environmental approvals, if environmental approvals impose a condition, the entire ash,
Let's forget about the environmental conditions. So whoever put up this Norachole power plant didn't know
Yeah.
that there was coal ash that is going to be the root cause of the emission of the coal power plant. No one
they
knew
are not
that.
emission actually, they are not stuck emission. I am talking about the output coal.
Yeah.
So now what they are doing, they are putting some chemical spraying, water spraying to make sure that some,
But that has not eased the issue.
is not 100% is some problem. We are now working with them and make sure that now we are trying to have a wind barrier around the thing. Now if or putting a water spraying on the top of the ash to make it a crust, and the top of the coal we put some condition. So we are thinking if that get worse, actually we will have some complete covering up the whole ash and the coal yard by a building or some roof or something to cover.
Why not do that already?
We are doing it actually. So
When
that's
are you all doing it?
That's what I told you. Because if we are done now, it should have been done differently. That the new proposal is, if future coal plant, if we build, has to be so-called ultra supercritical.
Thank you very
They are
much,
talking about clean coal. Clean coal they are talking about is all the emission, ash, all this fully covered and
you very
full
much.
enclosed system, and you don't see. So
Thank
we
you very
can
much.
we learn by lesson.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suren Bataguda, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Sri Lanka is not in a position, however, Dr. Bataguda, as you know, to test and learn and then implement it, and Sri Lanka can't be used as a model at any cost by even the Chinese or even the Indians for that matter. I want to move my attention to Kirti Tendakon from the anti-corruption front. Kirti, you've been very vocal. You've been very vocal on coal. My question is very simple. Is there kickbacks people get by importing coal to the country, and is that why many institutions or even organizations are so keen to get coal into play? The time starts now.
Last Saturday I was in Norachole and meeting the people, more than 200 people that was down there, and the real people from 5 villages. And what we saw for last 3-4 years and what Mr. Bataguda explained here is totally different things. For example, there are 5 points which the sewage and the industrial waste and the ash, the coal, the mixed with water is going into the sea. There's no treatment plants at all. So, I mean, all of them are not operating at the moment. The other hand, we are getting coal from different countries, and it was always surrounded with controversies. We know there were 2 shipments of coal went missing, and all of a sudden there was a rocket came on, and that particular discussion came on. We know the media industry was invested with the money which came as the commissions, and we know the former secretary Mr. Fernandez is now having 4 properties in Australia, and we have just because
Kirti,
he
you take
managed.
responsibility for
I
all
am
the
taking the
statements that you,
responsibility, and these documents are
made.
public documents now. And it was, we are continuously saying, and if we can find Mr. Fernando, I mean, we are very happy to face these allegations in front of him. The issue here is very simple. This coal industry is so corrupt from the beginning. Norachole is so corrupt from the beginning, and everyone know how it has started. It was given promises to give the electricity at a cheaper price to the Noracholi people. Is that happen? They were promised to give additional land, alternative land. Is that happen? They were talking about building a belt of forest down there to address this the environmental issues. Is that happen? I mean, simply from 2017 June 30th, there's no environment license for this particular thing. So all these powerful the engineers, all the efficient officials, government officials is doing nothing for 10 months to get the license. Why can't they have the license? Because this is so much of issues, the very basic issues which they have not capable of addressing. So now in those sort of an environment, we are talking about clean growth. How on earth it is going to happen? Now the South African coal, which is imported here at a very high price, is having 15% dust when it is shipped, and here it is, when it is downloaded here, it's something like 25% of dust. When it go into the process, it's having something like 1/3 of the whole thing is a dust. So are we going to address this issue? From that particular point, it starts the corruption.
Kiri, I want to stop you here, because it's not fair for us to continue without giving Dr. Buttergood an opportunity to respond to one of the allegations that you made. You say that for the last 10 months you all have not done anything, and this allegation was leveled at the engineers as well. So I'm going to give Dr. Buttergood an opportunity to respond to that allegation.
My question is very simple. Are the Noracholi power plant is having a valid environmental license?
Okay, understood. Yes, Dr. Buttergood.
Yes, I think people can say a lot of things, but as I know, a lot of things happening.
Do you all have a valid environmental license?
No, that's not yet getting. That's the reason there was one court case against this. At the moment, there are some 27 or some number of activities. They are negotiating with the Wyoming environmental authorities and
So without a valid environmental license, how did this power plant even get commissioned?
No, all of a sudden, environmental authority of Wyoming has not extended this because of the various environmental issues. But we are working on putting some wind barrier surrounding this, putting chemical sprays, water, a lot of things they are doing. They are not just sleeping there. Of course, maybe Kirti, possibly what we have done is not enough. But as far as we know, every week we are monitoring minister, state minister, we always calling these people and monitoring. There are a lot of activity we are doing.
So without a valid environmental license, how can you go ahead with a project?
I think there was a settlement agreed between this mediator between the court, appeal court or somewhere, and Wyoming is working on it. To issue the environmental license, they are going to meet some conditions. Those conditions they are meeting at the moment actually. So they are strongly working with the environmental people.
But the problem is, Dr. Buttergood, as Kirti really correctly pointed out, you already have a problem at hand, and then you're going ahead with another problem in the future.
I know, this question is now last, I think 10 years plant is running. When you start 2000, last 10 years annually we are getting license. So I don't know why annually you can license, because I don't think is there any different emissions than last year and this year. Last year they got the environmental license, this year they are not getting. So those are the issues we are facing. So
thank you very much. Are you satisfied with that answer?
No, not at all. Now what I am saying here is that the Mr. Secretary very correctly said they don't have an environmental license. Now there's a small restaurant very close to Noracholi, some 2 kilometers away from this particular plant, and they had a problem with the sewage system. And the moment the environment authority visited down there, they asked this small restaurant to close down. Right. So we are talking about the biggest environment polluter in Sri Lanka, the Noracholi power plant. And it is pumping ash, bottom ash, and in the same time it is coming with burned ash and all that. So, and third, 67,000 metric tons of coal gone missing when the when the coal is transferred to the plant and all that, it is happening. And
yes,
the audit report says 2050. That's this particular
we'll
amount of
that.
things.
We'll talk about all that.
Yeah, no, what I am saying here, there's a power plant which is not according to the law of the land.
Thank you very much.
It is not happening.
Thank you very much, Kirti, for your thoughts as well. I open the floor for questions from our journalists joining us this evening. Charita Fernando and Nabil Majid. I open the floor for questions. Let's start off with Charita.
Actually, I'm going to take the first this thing. Dr. Bhattacharya, do you think that coal is the cheapest option?
I think cheapest option.
Do you think that, so you're saying that under this new energy mix, all the coal power plants predicted for the future will sort of encompass this, what you call ultra supercritical clean coal technology?
That's correct.
The US Department of Energy is predicting that adding clean coal technology to coal power plants will add 80% to the cost of the electricity produced by these plants. So how is that coal going to be the cheapest option?
So US figures, they are like this, but we have done the master plan study by Japanese experts. Now just finished the study. In that study very clearly says, based on a lot of experience in the world, so this master plan study has recommended the coal as the cheapest option. So not, but
Dr. Bhattacharya, again on this subject of clean coal, again these are, like Shamir said, we can't use Sri Lanka as a testing ground. So these are so this is already a technology that has been tried.
Well tested
So
technology.
the first so-called clean coal plant in the US opened in Texas. In it, carbon dioxide extracted from the exhaust gas, pumped to an oil field 80 miles away, pumped in the ground to force additional oil to the surface. Second plant under construction in Mississippi converts the coal to gas before burning it, and that plant has just suspended operations because it is no longer financially viable. So what makes you think that these clean coal power plants that you're proposing for Sri Lanka will be financially viable if the US, even with a president who is advocating for clean coal, can't get a clean coal power plant to last longer than a year? They've suspended operations in
different reason. Now question is, our policy now, government decided we should have energy mix, not because of the cost per se, because of it's a diversification is the policy. We are all focusing on all LNG, gas, and diesel, all those things. We never know what happens in the future. Our best strategy is to make sure the energy security of the country. We believe in order to have energy security, we must have a big mix.
But Dr. Bhattacharya, how can you have energy security by adding a technology to, well, already you have this coal technology is over 150 years, over a century and a half old. Now you say that with this clean coal technology, that you can address the environmental concerns.
Precisely.
Let's just say that hypothetically we agree with you on that one, that you can address the environment concerns. But then you come back to the cost concerns. Now the CBEU is maintaining that this is the least cost generation expansion plan. Now I'm giving you statistics from the US Department of Energy. The US, a country that is promoting coal usage right now under President Donald Trump, his Department of Energy is predicting that adding clean coal technology to coal power plants adds 80% to the cost of electricity. That doesn't sound like energy security.
So that's US study. But we have done the master plan study by well-known international consultants.
Can I disturb? How cheap is coal? How cheap? On what basis you are saying the coal is the cheapest? What is the unit cost for coal production?
It's not cheapest we are talking about.
Yeah.
We are thinking cheapest also.
No, now we are having Norocholeno. How much it costs for a unit?
It's called about 7 rupees.
It's 7.90 rupees. Yeah.
7. I mean only for coal.
No, there is
with your all that the administration and all that.
Yes.
7.90. So you have done a study.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we see the report? I mean, is it a public document?
No, we have. I think. I mean, recently we have calculated. I mean, so far what we have generated, there is something amount to be some gigawatt hours, and then we have the investment as well as the amount invested for coal and other O&M costs. So when you I mean, when you divide this cost and the amount generated, I think recent figures before I came here, I got it from the DG.
With all the capital and all that, you did the calculation.
Yeah, I mean,
so can we have the? Is it a public document?
No, excluding the capital,
okay.
it will be 840 rupees.
Mr. Abagunawardhan, as the chairman and MD of SEMA, the Strategic Enterprise Management Agency, you are also advising the president on several government policies and projects, including ranging from electoral reform to as your expertise as an electrical engineer also in the area of energy policy. Do you see this as anywhere close to being a sustainable solution to the country's energy problems? Is the government now making energy policy depending on the needs of the unions or on the needs of the public?
Well, I don't think there's a significant difference between the earlier policy and this particular policy.
It adds 30%.
The issue is the other factors while determining the plan. Now, let me come to this point. Now, Dr. Vijayakorn says, well, without capital, cost of coal per unit is around 8 rupees.
840 he said.
Okay, right. Without capital, what's the cost of wind? 0. What's the cost of solar? 0. What's the cost of hydro? 0. Because there's no fuel cost involved. So this is an argument which was put forward with erroneous calculations.
But you have
Okay,
to give,
let me.
but Mr. Abagunawardhan, take into consideration what Dr. Bhattagoda has said previously as well, and what energy experts said previously as well. Let's say that renewable technology is not advanced enough yet to cover the base load of the energy. You need to have a strong
it's not
base.
correct.
But let's say that you need to have something. I'm asking, should you then be relying on coal to supply this thing when the facts, the statistics by countries that are exporting coal as well, they are saying that adding this green coal technology is going to add 80% to the cost of the electricity generated.
Exactly, that's the worldwide experience. Now, I am against coal for 4 reasons. Firstly, even though you mitigate any other local issues, there is a worldwide issue of climate change due to emission of carbon dioxide. So, already the global atmospheric temperature average has increased by 1 degree centigrade, and it's not possible for us to limit that to 2 degrees due to current setup. So it will go beyond that. So worldwide, no country in the world believe that we can burn all coal underneath the surface and have a sustainable development. That's not the case. All developed countries, they still use coal because of the existing coal power plants. Once they retire, they are not going to replace that with another coal plant. That's the developed world strategy. And in the developing world, yes, there were new coal power plants coming in, mainly in China and India. Now they are revisiting the plans to reduce as much as possible future construction of coal power.
But
That's
Mr. Abagunawardhan, the
situation.
IEA has cut China's coal consumption forecast by half.
Exactly.
They've said that China's coal
No,
consumption
there's a reason
peaked
for
in
that. There's a reason
2013.
for that because during about 6-7 years back, solar unit cost, that's mainly due to the capital cost, was in the range of 80 rupees to 100 rupees per unit, 1 kilowatt hour. Now it has reduced to 15 to 20 rupees per unit range. If the capacity is much larger, then it will reach about 12 rupees, right? Now, the Ceylon Electricity Board came up with the coal power proposal about 30 years back. During that time, coal was cheaper, renewables were expensive. Now, after 30 years, worldwide, the capital investments are mainly going for renewables, and renewable energy is cheaper than coal. Now let's take the case of firm energy. That's I mean, we don't need coal to complement renewables. The issue is storage. How you store coal? Well, you store coal, not electricity, right? Now, in this case, if it's wind or solar, then when it's there, we have to tap. We cannot use it during the night. That's the case we are discussing. So, the issue is storage. Storage issues. Now, what's the worldwide accepted way of storing energy? Is hydro. Store in reservoirs. That's the, we can optimally utilize the existing hydro reservoirs for storage, because we can use when renewable energy.
Mr. Abatement, going back to what you were saying about climate change, I mean, we're seeing the impacts of it right now, right at this very moment. While we're here seated in the studio, there are thousands of Sri Lankans who are living with impending disasters facing them. The Met Department is forecasting rains in excess of 150 millimeters tonight in much of the country, which will trigger floods, landslides, etc. Amidst this changing climate, now, if the experience of the past couple of years is anything to go by, this is going to be followed immediately by a prolonged drought.
Yes. That's
is our hydro storage capacity as good as you say it is?
No, it's complementary. Well, if you have more rain, water is stored, and we will be having less sunshine. So, solar and hydro are complementary to each other.
Mr. Abatement, let me interrupt you for a second here. Now, I want to move to Dr. Bhattacharya. Mr. Abatement very correctly says there are 4 reasons that why he is against coal. Are you in agreement with all those 4 areas, or you think that coal is the way forward?
So people can say a lot of things, but practically, really, you face this. I am a secretary. My responsibility to give electricity to people. If I can talk about climate change, I am expert in the subject.
He was heading the Global Affairs Unit of the Environment, and he was the chief negotiator at the table regarding climate change.
Dr. Bhattacharya, that's why I'm also disappointed. From the clean, from the Asia Clean Energy Forum
what he said earlier. Now he's in the
he's reversing it. Like this. I think we should not mislead
Let him talk.
We should not mislead our people. So-called climate change, greenhouse gas emission, the per capita emission. So Sri Lanka is very, very small, about 0.9 tons per person. Other countries, every country is far.
But Dr. Bhattacharya, you do realize that climate change doesn't care about national boundaries.
No.
So what happens in the US affects us in Sri Lanka as well.
If you want to be 100% clean people, that's good. But question is, the Paris Convention, Paris Accord, we have agreed certain amount, which is about 4% of voluntarily and 16% of our emission for power sector by support. We are proposing well within this time. So we have to all other countries, for Australia, for example, 65% of their power comes from coal.
From existing plants,
No,
they're not commissioning new plants.
So why you mislead our people? Australia, such a rich country.
But Dr. Bhattacharya, you mentioned the Paris Agreement. I'll draw your attention to the Paris Agreement. India's commitment at the Paris Agreement was to go 40% renewables by 2030. As per their 10-year blueprint for energy, they are going to do 43% by 2027.
So we are also doing this.
India is trying to go beyond their Paris commitment, and Sri Lanka is going backwards.
Let's understand our policy. The government clearly directed that by 2050, Sri Lanka power sector should be carbon neutral. We are heading towards our ambitious vision, if possible, to have 100% renewable by 2050.
But how can you do that by having coal power plants in Sri Lanka?
To achieve that, so as Ashoka is thinking, tomorrow we go for solar and wind and solar power. It doesn't work like this.
That does work because you are going to propose by 2035 you will be having 600 megawatt of coal, which will be there going beyond 2050.
So Dr. Bhattacharya, there is a point now. Let's talk about the finances involved.
Mislead people. Yeah. But he talk about the sun. We have a daytime sun. In the night we have no sun.
Yes.
He is talking about
storage. Storage. Now you have included pump storage power plant by 2026 for what purpose? Not for renewables, but to store the coal power generated power. So you can have pump storage for coal power, because during the night they cannot run full load. For that, they have a cushion to store that. You can have coal power storage from pump storage power plants, but you cannot have pump storage for renewables.
But he talk about it.
Even for renewable.
And
the way the things are happening right now worldwide, by 2025,
Dr. Vijay
storage cost will on.
Let's give an opportunity to Dr. Vijay Banda as also.
Dr. Ratna's respond. 18% price hike with the clean, the supercritical power plant. If you look into the USA, the energy generation or the energy mix, it is about now at present about 40% from coal. So that means that is coal-based power generation is there. So that means if you are going for a high efficient power plant, that means electricity cost will increase, but it has a little, least cost.
80%.
So why are
remember that they are
that's the problem. Just because the US is making bad policy decisions right now, does that mean that Sri Lanka also should make bad policy?
No, that's why we also why they are going with the supercritical? That means to reduce the emissions so that they gain some efficiency.
Mr. Trump thinks that I want to listen to Dr. Janak Ratnasiri's comments as well. Now you heard what Dr. Bhattakuda said, you heard what Mr. Abegunwardana said, you also heard what Dr. Vijay Banda as well as Keerthan said about coal alone. What is your opinion? You're the energy expert here. Tell us, what do you think the way forward for Sri Lanka is?
Well, first of all, I beg to disagree with Dr. Bhattakuda on two issues. One is that he said that with the coal power plants, you can have 100% mitigation of the polluting emissions. Now, I have in front of me a page from the CEB long-term generation plan. It has a table titled Abatement Factors of Typical Control Devices. For sulfur dioxide, it says that with seawater scrubbing, you can get only 94% reduction, and for total suspended particulates, 90%. Then with fabric filter, you can get higher, 99.5%, but those things, as we have experienced at Norachale, they don't work all the time. There are some breakdowns. So there is no 100% mitigation in the case of coal power plants. Whereas in the case of gas power plants, there is absolutely no emissions of sulfur dioxide, no particulates, and no ash, so therefore there is no need to do anything for mitigation.
What is the other account that you disagree with?
Sorry?
What is the other account that you disagree with Dr. Bhattakuda?
Yes, that is the price. He said that coal power plants will be cheapest. Now what I want to know is that now last year CEB called bids for building a 300 megawatt combined cycle power plant at Keralapitia, and according to a statement given by him to the papers, the lowest bid happened to be 15 rupees per unit, and so that can be compared if you have a price for coal. Now I want to know, has CEB or the ministry obtained a firm quotation for building a supercritical power plant using the coal at the current fuel prices, and if so, what would be the price of generation 1 unit of electricity from?
So let's listen to what Dr. Bhattakuda has to say. Have you got a firm quotation?
No, we have done actually. I told you there's
no. Have you got a firm quotation?
Master plan. Yes.
Yeah, we have. You all have got a firm quotation. How much is it?
Super. Yes.
How much is it?
So we have a 2,500 per kilowatt.
It is like this. So we quotation in the sense that if the price
the last time the quotation was obtained was in the year 2014.
Yeah.
No, it's estimate. We got it.
We for a combined cycle power plant, coal power plant, whatever power plant, basically we estimated figures in the future. That is common for one is the capital cost, the other one is the fuel cost. Those are basically.
No, but isn't it important?
Based on this one, we prepare the plan. Let me explain. Yeah. Based on this, we prepare the plan. So then, according to that one, including the capital cost, the LNG based power plant is about 14 rupees and 50 cents. But with the supercritical power plant, including the capital cost, it will be 10.37 rupees. So that is the cost difference.
But you agree that every year, if we are going forward to commissioning a project like that sort, every year quotations have to be obtained, isn't it?
No, you can't do that.
We can't do that because I mean
Estimate.
the plan basically
It's
the
not a
estimate.
Those prices
The-
not a quotation,
based
it's
on
an
that one, all over the world, that is basically the plans are prepared based on that one.
So the
Dr.
estimate is based on the 2014 figures, is it?
Yeah,
international
based on the
figures.
past figures, there is the world, I mean projections. So we use all the projections.
Actual figures.
The
that
World
other
Bank,
countries
the
get.
IEA, all there are, I mean the standard projections.
Do you have anything to add, Naveen? Do you have anything to add,
Yes.
Dr. Ratnasiri? Yes.
Now the whole exercise of preparing a plan is flawed, as I mentioned in a number of my articles. With their models, they can plan the amount of capacity that has to be added in the future, annually or biannually, like that capacity. But whether that capacity should be achieved using coal or gas should be determined at the time of building the plant after obtaining the quotations. You can't go by past data and say in the future, in 10 years' time, it will be the same rate. You must get quotations at the time you are building and then see whether it's the gas that is cheaper or the coal that's cheaper.
Thank you very
likewise,
much.
even here, you can't go by consultants' predictions and others. We must get firm quotations and then decide.
Thank you very much,
which is
gentlemen.
cheaper.
We have to go for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's the third round. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Are we facing an energy crisis in Sri Lanka? All this and more after a short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. I want to start off the third round with Dr. Janaka Ratnasiri, consultant energy sector. Dr. Ratnasiri, you are working hand in glove with the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy during the last couple of months. You're working with them as a consultant, you were working with them on a contract basis for 6 months, so on and so forth. Suddenly, why this shift in attitude towards coal?
Actually, I have been working as a consultant in the Ministry of Petroleum, organization called the Petroleum Resources Development Secretariat. And as a matter of fact, I was invited to work there by none other than Dr. Batagoda about 2 years back. So I've been working, and in fact I prepared a national policy on natural gas, and that was submitted to the ministry some months back. And in fact, last 17th, there was a stakeholder meeting to discuss that, where we invited about 50 organizations. Unfortunately, there was no one from the CEB present at that meeting, and even though there was a lady from the ministry. So this policy, actually what was tabled at that meeting is not what I prepared. The ministry has sort of adjusted that or amended that. One important thing that I said was to have a separate authority on natural gas, because that is very important, because even though we talk about all the good things about gas, no pollution and everything, one aspect that we have to be very careful is that the safety aspect. And unless we have the regulations, the legal aspects in place, no country will export gas, LNG, to us. So that's why we had to have all these regulations, everything in place. And the Ministry of Petroleum idea was to entrust that to the Ceylon Petroleum
Now, the
Corporation.
statement was issued by the CB Engineers Union saying that Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia are the LNG producers, are the highest
Yes,
LNG producers,
yes.
and then they contradict the same thing in the same statement. Why the sudden shift of thinking, Dr. Ratnasiri? What is going on the minds of these engineers attached to CEB?
I don't know, I can't speak on their behalf. In fact, what my personal thing is that I mentioned in some of my articles also that the countries top achievers at A level are selected to do engineering, and once they pass out, when they join the various organizations, they leave their brains behind in the university and work as robots, because when we want to do any study, physical study, we always get foreigners, Japanese, Koreans, like that. After 60 years of hydro in the country, even if you want to do a small project like 35 megawatt power plant, we get foreigners to do a study. I mean, why? After 60 years of experience, we have not been developing our capability
Thank you very much.
to do the studies. Now we have the Central Consultancy Engineering Bureau, which was started by Dr. Kulasinghe. Unfortunately, it did not do their job properly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Janakaratnasari, consultant energy sector. I want to move towards engineer Dr. H.M. Vijayakumar Banda, Chief Engineer, Transmission Planning, CEB. Dr. Janakaratnasari says engineers are like robots now. They like to listen to what the West or the international community is saying and act based on that. Do you agree with this statement?
No, I don't agree with that one, because so we are after coming, just completing the degree at the university, we come to the industry, and then there we start from the beginning actually. So we have to face a lot of whatever we learn in the theory in the university, we have to actually apply in the industry.
But the problem I think is,
coming back to his question, so we are not always getting consultancy for each and every work. So what basically, if you do not have any knowledge, know-how, so in that time we are searching for a consultancy. So for an example, if you look into the recent studies we have carried out by our engineers, one is actually the renewable energy integration plan. So that is basically, so we have presented in the worldwide forums, and then most of these countries, they appreciated, because in-house how we have developed these capabilities. And also if you look into the transmission planning projects, lot of areas we are doing design and all the things by our own engineers. Whatever we need some kind of, if you do not have know-how, then definitely we have to take the experience
Do
for
you consider
them.
yourselves as professionals, Dr. Vijayakumar Banda? Do you think that the engineers attached to CEB are professionals?
Yes, why not?
They are not politically motivated at all?
No one is politically motivated.
Why
no one is gaining.
Why involved then? Why get yourself involved in this coal LNG dilemma that is currently plaguing Sri Lanka?
No, we actually, at the very...
CEB Engineers Union are striking, they want their demands met. You are saying they are not politically motivated, trying to figure out
It's not politically motivated. If we coming back to at the very beginning, I told the role of CEB engineers. So that means, our role is to give the electricity at the low cost. In that case, we prepare all the plans, we try to implement all the plans, and like that way. So therefore, what we are fighting for, getting the approval for this plan. Without this plan, we cannot take any plant into the implementation.
Because the last thing you want is to be like the GMOA. When there is a free trade agreement issue, the GMOA goes on strike. It seems like the CEB Engineers Union is also like that somewhat.
No, CEB engineers, if you look at that, we are not striking. You can see the lights are there.
No, you all struck a few months ago.
We are having some trade union actions. Actually, that is only, that is for, for the benefit of the people.
And you put the entire country in darkness at one point. People were complaining. I myself did complain because there was an issue. There was no electricity in my area. Why? Because the CEB Engineers Union have gone on strike. And here you have Dr. Bhattacharya trying to articulate the fact that there should not be any problems with electricity generation in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Even if there is no problem, if the CEB Engineers Union goes on strike, then what happens?
Yeah, that is we are forced to do that.
If not, the only conclusion that I can come is the CEB Engineers Union is closely working with the Secretary of the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy. Is that the case?
Yeah, basically, we have to work with it, because
you're saying it's not politically
policy.
Bang on point.
So I'm trying to figure out. So if that is not the case, it seems like the CEB Engineers Union is closely working with the Secretary to the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy.
We are not, biased with anybody. We work as a professionals, because we are not gaining anything to, to work with anybody.
Thank you very much, Engineer Dr. H.M. Vijayakumar Banda. I now move my attention to Kirti Tendakon, anti-corruption front. Kirti, sometimes very, very difficult to keep you away from crossing in other people's paths, but I'm going to pose you a question. My question to you is the corruption that is involved. The allegation that has been leveled is the fact that there are unions within the Ceylon Electricity Board trying to promote coal. because of the whim and fancy of certain officials in the higher up at the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Now, this is a claim made by most of the individuals working within the CEB. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, we basically see that the electricity crisis here is basically with a sort of a mafia working together. In one hand, we are having coal. In the other hand, we are having the emergency power generation generators, private sector, maybe half private sort of operator, who's keep on doing it for such a long time. And they are having sort of a mutual understanding. The new power plants are not coming here. For example, the Kerawalapitiya thing, I think it was to commission 2019 July. So, I mean, for almost 1-2 years now, we are struggling to get it out of the ground. So, what's the issue? The technical evaluation reports, then the changing of the terms and regulations. There was according to the technical evaluation, there was a group selected, and then once again the others were allowed to come in. So the delay happened, and who was responsible for these delays? I mean, is it the trade unions, the engineers coming up with all these the issues raised up, and Mr. Batagoda is supporting all that, working very closely to each other and not building the required power plants to the nation? So that's one particular question we have to ask. In the other hand, all of a sudden we see the Ambulipitiya, I mean for 3 years it was extended. So if it is, I mean on what basis it is happening continuously? And the issues here about Norocholi, we were talking about the clean coal and all that. So let's implement those in Norocholi.
At least.
At least. I mean, there are 27 points. After these people went to the courts and all that, there are 27 agreements, very basic points on environmental issues were agreed on. But for last 5 years, not a single, the issue has been addressed. Let's do it. Then the people will allow, the people in Norocholi will allow to build another coal power plant down there. Because they are not doing it, they see the devastation, they see the destruction, they see, they are experiencing that. In the other hand, Mr. Batagoda said they are going to build a fence down there. So I saw the drawing of that particular fence. It's a 15 meters. Is that so? So now it's 16 meters of coal is down there. How 15-meter fence windbreaker helps the 16-meter coal filed up down there.
Thank you very much, Kirtan Nikol, Anti-Corruption Front. I now move my attention to Dr. Suren Batagoda, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. I want to start the question with what Kirtan said. He said that let's start off with the Norocholi power plant. Let's address all the issues that is prevalent there. First of all, let's address it and then move towards the next step. So it makes sense, isn't it?
Yes, I agree. Actually, I am also promoting, as Kirtan say, he must do it. That's what I heard. They have a group of people working with the community, people, experts. They have a team working every week, working on it actually. In this sense, the fence, wind barrier is one of the proposal. Now, as Kirtan mentioned, they have some proposal to redesign this wind barrier. We awarded tender finally. After awarding also we stop it, and we are waiting for Morato University expert opinion. We will look at it. We are working on it.
Why are you waiting for the Morato University expert opinion when you all have experts with the CEB itself?
Yeah, they are the most paid people.
No. We have done. We have done everything. You are always criticizing all the profession in the country.
No,
that's not correct,
never.
because there are
we are not criticizing. We are trying to figure out.
Let me tell this.
Yeah.
We have done our experts and awarded the contract. After awarding, environmental groups and told said, look, we are not happy about the design, we must look at it.
Yes.
So we given those people to see this design. So if they know better than the CB engineers, good, we let them look at it. Then they said, okay, we want independent opinion from the Borough University. We allow it also. Usually once tender is awarded, design is completed, we cannot redesign, but still we allow to accommodate this thing. So if we keep talking about all engineers are bad, not doing everything, can't work. But CEB is a 20,000 people working there, 1,000 engineers. We have given them the we have given the opportunity to provide electricity to us. So they are doing a lot of things, proposals, all this. If you criticize everything what they have done, we can't do this. Then we must do everything again. So then we are listening to all the environmental NGOs. Those 27 points that Keith you're talking about are proposal from the people. We accepted everything. We stopped.
But has not done nothing.
We are doing not nothing. You can't say nothing. We are doing all the chemical spraying, water spraying, bin barriers, all these things, all the improving all these sprinkler systems, watering, everything is done. So I mean, tell me somebody why we not do anything. There are how many people working in the Norachal? 4,000 or something, or yeah, some number.
Yes.
So you think they are not doing anything? If they are not doing anything, how can we get electricity? Even the flood, drought last year, entire water body is dead. Only 8%. Only 8% of water there. But we give a power cut. Every drought, the flood, we give electricity. So we are working hard. There are of course mistakes in the coal. I told you from the beginning, Norachal is the first experience in the coal power plant. So we are listening to it.
Thank you very much.
But we must follow other countries.
Thank you very much.
So if the coal is stopped all over the world, we must do. But all the country building, we must learn lesson and we must do it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suren Bataguda, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. When you said there are 4,000 people working at
I don't know,
approximately around 3,000 to 4,000. You say that are they doing anything to uplift the living standards of the people in that area? However, given the fact that we have a Sri Lankan parliament with 225 people not doing anything, I really don't know what those in at the Norachal coal power plant is doing. So let's move our attention.
This is the same argument when the Sri Lanka Telecom was private.
I need to give an opportunity. Right? I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you in a minute. But I need to give an opportunity to Asoka Begunawardha, the chairman of SEMA. Asoka, to be very fair, this is the first time that I have seen you aggressive on the show. I have never seen you as aggressive as this at the last couple of shows that I've hosted. Fortunately, that is. But why are you so disappointed? Is it because the people are not heeding what you're trying to say, or what's the reason? Or are you disappointed with the entire system of governance in Sri Lanka?
Actually, now we were discussing about this long-term generation plan for about 30 years now. At the beginning, the coal was cheaper. Still, there was a policy promoting indigenous resources, renewable energy, and there was a policy cost involved with that because coal was cheaper. But after 30 years, now we can see that the situation has changed. During that time, we were discussing about the least cost option, not in the context of finance, but in the context of economic cost. So we were trying to internalize the economic cost, the other aspects. We have to import coal right throughout the power plant period, unlike renewable energy. Then if we are importing, then that will be there's a stress on the foreign currency reserve and change in devaluation of the rupee. All those things coming into the picture. So on top of that, what will happen during the next 30 years? Now, once you commission a particular power plant, it will be there for about 30 years. So not only the current prices, we have to discuss about what will happen in the 30th year as well. So beyond that, now when a particular long-term plan proposes to have another 600 megawatt coal power plant in 2035, meaning that we have to predict for 2060. So these changes we have to seriously consider. That's why I say now coal is not an indigenous resource. We may have natural gas but no coal. That's firm. Then the worldwide trend is against coal. We have to understand. And it's cheaper. coal is expensive and renewables are cheaper with when you see the current prices. And on top of that, if you are thinking of storage, then the ideal mix is renewables plus natural gas, because it's complementing each other for storage. That's, we call it spinning reserves and other techniques. So because of those 4 reasons, I say that coal is not an option. The issue is, now even if you take a decision today to implement a coal power program, it will be commissioning by 2025. Now we are in 2018. What will happen during the next 7 years? That's the most important part, because the crisis is there during this period, because annually the demand is increasing much higher than 5% rate. So in order to cater to this demand, if you are waiting for another coal plant by 2025, in between you have to go for expensive oil-fired power plants. Now if you think of a different plan, then you can see that not only the long term requirement, but short term requirement, the solution is the same. If you go for LNG and renewables, we can start immediately. We can commission some of those plants by 2020.
Thank you very much.
So I think the case of coming up of this coal power is not to have coal, but to have in between expensive oil-fired power plants.
Thank you very much, Ashok Abdul Chairman of SEMA. I open the floor for questions. This time it's Charita for sure.
Thank you, Shami. My first question is to Dr. Batagoda. I would like to go back to the coal cost. Now you mentioned that it was 7.9
or something.
7.9. So can you give us a breakdown of that? What does that? Does it?
No, it's very simple. Now, coal cost, unit cost, it range from, when I purchase coal, it range from $50, it's $49 to around $95 range. Now let's say $100 for example per ton, only coal, right? If you buy coal at $100, it costs, unit cost about 6 rupees, something like. So just energy only, just convert the energy in the coal, only energy cost is 6 rupees if 100 rupees dollars. But we bought the coal at from 49 to 100 various figures. Just worst scenario is $100. It's 6 rupees only for energy cost. Okay. Then we add about 2.5 or something maximum for capital cost, which is the capital cost. About maximum 2.5 or 8.5 or something. But average we got from the, that is 2.5 for commercial rate. But the rate they got from the treasury is low interest rate, about, when we estimate actual cost, about 1.9, 2 rupees per unit for capital cost. So energy cost is 6 rupees and another 1.9 or something for the capital cost, which is the $100 per ton range. Yes. But coal price is much lower. Last 3 years when I bought, 100 is maximum we bought, not 100, 94. But it range from 49. So that means we are talking about maximum cost is about 8 rupees or something.
Charita,
but then,
Charita, just add something onto this. Now I am having the Public Utility Commission report on actual generation cost September 2017. According to this particular report, the cost per unit cost for the, what it says, coal complex is 14 rupees.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
So this, I mean, who's lying? Is that Public Utility Commission is lying, or the Mr. Batagoda is lying on this?
Figure of
and on the bottom
was
of that,
submitted by the CB itself, right?
Nobody
These
lied.
days,
You can calculate.
No.
I mean, simple science, no. 1 ton of coal is $100. So we know scientific know how much calories in the coal. It's simple.
Yeah,
no. Don't rely on our figures or don't rely on the future report. It's scientifically we know how much calories.
But then,
but
how can you say that not to
4,000
rely
people
on
are
your
operating
figures?
down there. 4,000 people are operating there. Okay, maybe let's say 100 people are operating there.
Dr. Batagoda, this the PUCSL data is given by the CEB. This is what you have.
Those are just a mistake. No, data sometime those data we not check. What happened is there are special costing involved. Last year they have invested on the maintenance or
Some
wind
parts,
barrier,
spare
all these
parts.
things, spare part,
Yeah.
big volume
Big
of we
volume
bought
of
that
spare
year.
parts.
They put that also into the total value and divided. So this year, for example,
But don't you have to do that when you generate the
we don't do that,
average
Because it has
cost?
a lifetime.
and when you do
We have
this, when
realized.
you invest some building or something for this accommodation, all this thing for this year, you can't get that into the picture. It doesn't work.
There's
like that.
another
then-
report.
but then-
There's another report.
Yeah.
It says the unit cost is 14 rupees 65 cents.
Those
And
are-
I don't know we ought to believe on this.
Those are not
Yeah.
correct. That's question.
It's like your
So, Dr.
I mean,
Bhattacharya,
CV
now when you
reports are not
calculate-
correct.
Not C report. C never say like this.
When you
The-
calculate the average cost, don't you take into
So we are
account the storage cost, the environment damage, maybe loan repayment, interest rate? Don't you?
Yeah, those
I mean,
are
you
the
can
So
get it. I mean,
what
you
is the
can-
overall?
No, we can calculate now. We know how much $1.5 interest rate, capitalized. Simple. Anyone can calculate.
Right.
the
So
cost.
this 14 is not correct. Is
Not
that what
correct.
is-
Not correct.
So what is the correct figure?
See, PUCSL say not only that. They say Sampur coal power plant 33 rupees. Not in the same report. They say unit of coal cost is 33.5, right? That was their report. There's many figures like this. But
So
we
what
can-
is right? What is right?
I don't know. We have to calculate ourselves. I told you simple.
you are
So
saying-
it has not done by.
Oh.
It has not happened. You have not done that.
No, we have done.
So what's the figure?
So what is the
What's
figure?
So in our long-term generation plan,
Yeah.
there are figures.
So
If you
what's
don't-
the figure?
If you don't trust that, that figure we are talking about.
Yeah, I said
7 rupees.
Yeah, 7.8,
8.
9 something like
Eight.
that. That's the figure we are.
So it's not clean coal technology then,
No,
because
no,
then
clean coal.
you're saying, well,
We have not
either, either the PUCSL is lying, or the CB is lying, or
See, this thing people
they're
are
all lying, and the US Department of Energy is also lying, because they're saying it's going to add 80% to this thing. So we're all liars basically when
No,
it
if
comes
you
to
add
coal
in the
thing.
supercritical, yeah, there is a little increase in the cost. That's obvious.
An 80% increase in the cost is not a little
that
increase,
we
Dr.
can't
Vijay.
say.
That's why I told you not to believe anybody.
This was
Get the $100
Yeah.
per ton. Then you can
80%
estimate
increase
how
we
much.
can't.
But Dr. Bhattacharya, now when you draw plans on policy, you need to have accurate data, right?
We have done our accurate data.
But you just
so
said that
where's
you
the
did
data?
not
So data is in
believe.
our national plan. It's a big book published every 2 years publishing, and also because you don't rely us, then we hired international consultant, very good expert, Japanese experts. We done the full master plan now, released already. So those data are there, but people are not believing what to do.
But Japanese consultants that the Japanese government is also not listening to, because they're also stopping coal.
So figures, no. That's why I'm
The
telling
world
you.
trend is actually they are accommodating renewable, but they are going with all the energy mix.
No, I mean,
No, actually
even
it's
for
not
the US, they are projecting their growth in the coal industry to be in coal exports.
So,
They are going to come and dump their coal on us. We are going to burn it and poison our people
See,
and our
let me
environment,
tell
while
something.
they move to renewables and clean energies.
This job is very difficult. For example, now Dr. Rathasari is fully promoting the LNG basically. I like my friend. Ashok is full promoting the renewable only.
And you
Some
are
people
promoting coal.
I'm not promoting anything.
I just
We need to understand the global trend.
the government, we have listened to everybody. There are many people, some people want wind only, some want only coal only, some want only LNG only, some doesn't work like this. So we as a government, I am a secretary, I am listening to everybody. As same as we are talking about the supporting LNG or renewables, engineers are supporting coal and mix.
Oil.
Yes, Dr.
And we
Rathasari.
have to balance this.
Yeah. When you're speaking about renewable energy, the one thing that we have found, that is the biomass. Now,
Yeah.
the plan, CEB plan, has made provision to add only 5 megawatt of biomass power plants into the system, which is very, very low. Actually, our potential is to promote biomass, because that will save foreign exchange.
Yeah.
At the moment, we are spending nearly 1/4 of our import bill on fuel. That can be cut down and help in the economy by promoting biomass, which is indigenous, and also we can go for higher technologies where biomass can be used more efficiently than in the present way. And for that, we have to get the technology. We can convert biomass into a substance which can be used as a LPG substitute and also as a diesel substitute. So in addition to using it as a power plant operation, we can also use it for transport and also for households. So proper energy plan should include this. Unfortunately, at the moment, country's energy plan is done by the power ministry, which is biased on the power sector. But as I said earlier, the highest energy consumption is in the transport sector, industries, and those are not incorporated into the energy plan. And once I wrote an article also saying that who has a mandate to prepare the energy plan. Actually, it's the Ministry of Planning Development who should handle this, not the power and energy. Pardon me for saying that, because they only has a mandate to develop the policy for power sector, not the entire energy spectrum. So we have to incorporate this biomass system into our development into the system, so that we can save our foreign exchange and help in the
Is anyone
economy.
getting rich?
Sorry?
Is anyone getting rich by getting coal to the country?
There are plenty of people.
And
There are plenty.
Don Robinson,
and
you
also
suddenly
that
You
went,
want to get the list?
that
You want to
will-
get the list?
That will also help in the rural economy,
Dr.
it will give
Vijay
livelihood
Kumanda,
for
now-
people, and also we can optimize our land use. Now we see so much of fertile land has been abandoned. We can make use of that, and also so much of the dry zone land that has not been developed.
Keith,
Now,
you say about the fact that you have the list in your hand. So are you sure that you have the list in your hand?
From the very beginning, Norochole, when it was started, there was a team of people taken from Norochole to China, and they spent almost maybe 3 hours, less than 3 hours, down there seeing that particular plant down there, and then it allowed to get 30-year-old used plant to Sri Lanka, and that is the base, that is the very basic issue what we are facing.
Dr. Vijay,
It was not.
this was an allegation that has been leveled, saying
No, I
that
don't think
it's a
I-
30-year-old.
I don't know.
So how many days?
Norochole
How many
power
days this Norochole worked the plant one, the first one? How many days it worked during this particular year, starting from January 1st
Yes.
to until today?
Yeah, it is running more than about 80%. In fact, if you look into the plant factors of these power plants, because the problem is we can't stop this power plant because of the capacity shortage. Because you see the dry spell weather we experienced. Last 2 to 3 years. Because of that reason, these power plants has to be operated. So that is why even there are some issues.
There was so much of issues.
Right, so
for,
in order to
for 30 days.
No, that issues are basically any power plant we have to have routine maintenance. That has to, we need to take the shutdowns. So some power plants are scheduled maintenance are there. Sometimes because we need to maintain the power supply, continuous power supply, we are sacrificing all those kind of things, right? So that
Dr.
is the reason.
Vijay,
That's the other thing is, we're coming back to his biomass thing, right? So the biomass we have not stopped anything. Anybody can, if we look into the energy licenses we have given now, about 100 megawatt licenses we have given for the development of biomass. But the problem is nobody is developing this. Then if the power plants are not developing, how can we put those into the business? But exclusively that can be accommodated. We have not stopped this biomass power plant development.
Dr. Vijay, now the unit cost again. Now it seems that you all are the authorities in charge of the power sector. So if you are not clear on the exact data, this is I refer to data from the CEB and POCSL because you are the ones who have submitted that. So one can argue that you have deliberately undermined the price of coal to make it look cheaper.
No. That's clearly our secretary explained. Everybody can calculate the cost. For an example, 1 kilogram of coal, that will be, you can generate about 2.5 kilowatt hour. So if it is $100 per metric ton, then you know the price that will be about 6.24 rupees.
So
Then
what is the official, what is the data that you go by, the CEB?
So
The correct figure.
if you look into this one, so we have the
You
generation
stand-
plan option, and also we have the actual figures. I mean, what is that is in the Norwich-Chole
So
power
is
plant.
it 7 rupees, 14 rupees,
Yeah,
or
that
as
is-
you
that
mentioned
is the-
earlier,
the
10
present
rupees
price,
and 37
actually.
cents?
It's 7 rupees.
Yeah, 790 is the present
790.
present price. Actually, just
I
I
mean,
did.
that's based on
Dr.
the
Vijay Paul,
very
in the
simple
first round you mentioned 10 rupees,
this
37
is
cents.
based on very simple calculation. Every single coal kilo of coal which was shifted from South Africa is coming down there to Norwich-Chole, and it is used, and 100% power efficiency is down there. That's based on that particular logic, right? I mean, according to the 2015 audit report, I am having that report here with me.
I mean, if
it
I-
says, right,
Yeah. If you come into the,
37,000 tons per year is wasted.
Yeah, if
So
you are-
going into the sea or as dust. So here we are having a problem of that particular
If
calculation.
you have the 100% efficiency, that means we would have gotten about 3.6 megajoules per kilowatt hour. So that is the basic thing. If you are going with 36% efficiency, this is the 2.5 kilowatt.
So what you are
Dr.
basically
Bhattacharya,
saying,
that is-
2017
because if you are
September Public Utility Commission calculation is wrong. So it is not 17.
Yeah, that's why I mean clearly explained our secretary. During that period, there was some procurement in the spare part, big spare part. That cost has been accumulated, then divided by that cost. Then that cost. So if you look into the present prices, I mean this year prices. So, I mean you can see. I mean we are going with the fuel price. I mean what we incurred, the cost incurred for the fuel, and what is the amount generated, that is the fuel. I mean the cost incurred for the fuel alone. Then we add about 1 to 2 rupees. They are the maximum 2 rupees based on the load to that one. That is the capital, and there will be a little amount of O&M.
Charith, I'll get back to you in a minute, but I'll give an opportunity to Dr. Ratnasiri also to respond. But I want to get to Mr. Asoka Begunwardhan, Chairman of SEMA. Now, what Mr. Bhattacharya is saying is the fact that coal is important, we have to move towards it. But you say that all developed nations are moving out of coal, and why is Sri Lanka embracing it? What is the message you have for Dr. Bhattacharya and his team, the engineers and also those at the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy?
I think it's not that complex. Now, at present consumption levels, developed world and to a great extent in also China, the percentage of coal is high. But what's happened during the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, that's the long-term planning. That's the most important part. So long-term planning, all those countries are exploring to go for renewables, citing that coal has no future. That's the reality. Now, when you say the energy mix percentage is very high in a particular developed country for coal, it's true. But when those plants retire, they are not coming up with a new coal plant. That's the point. So what we are discussing right now is establishing new plants. Establishing new plants, we have to think of, I mean, if we are thinking of a 20-year plan, we have to think of what will happen during the next 50 years. That's how the planning is done. So not only the current prices, but how the prices will fluctuate and what are the trends, all those we need to concentrate. Now, for renewables, wind and solar, during the last 7 years, the prices have dropped 80%. Right? So it was not compared to about 7 years ago, but while we are doing a long-term planning, we need to consider the trends, and then we should realize that the prices will drop by about 80% by 2080. That's the way we have to look at it. So long-term planning, considering that we don't have coal mines, we cannot rely on imported fuel for a longer period, then considering that it's even at current prices, coal is costly and renewables dropping. Most importantly, we have to consider the limitations of renewables. That's the storage issue. But now the trend is the storage costs are reducing at a drastic rate, mainly not because of coal plants or renewables, but mainly because the world is moving away from IC engines towards electrical vehicles. So for that, battery storage technologies are developing at a rapid rate, which will be cost effective by 2020 and 2025. So we have the storage solution as well. So we have to consider the long term trends, and then we have to...
Dr. you want to add something as
Yes.
well? I'll get back to Charita in a minute.
Yes. The electricity generation in the country is governed by the provisions in the Sri Lanka Electricity Act number 31 of 2013. This act defines the least cost generation as least economic cost. That means you have to consider not only the cost of production, but also the damage to the environment, health of the people, which are known as cost of externalities. Now the CB plan refers to this and says, since there is no data applicable to Sri Lanka, they have not added that. That means they have not complied with the provisions in the Act. That's why I have been saying that this plan is not legal. There is no it's not legal validity there, because it does not comply with the Act. So, whereas now in the PUCSL report, they have added this component, and that's why they say that the gas plants is cheaper than the coal, because
Right. Dr. I want to interrupt you for a second here. I want to move to Charita for the question.
Mr. Abegurandana, now we saw President Maithripala Sirisena spelling out his vision for energy in Sri Lanka, and it was a no coal, to move away from coal. So with coal coming back into the grid, has it done a U-turn? What is the policy right now?
No, actually, I don't think there's a policy change. The issue is the plan. Now, if the CEB is saying that, well, according to the policy, coal is cheaper, then I think President cannot address that issue. But the point is, what CEB is saying is incorrect. The assumptions are incorrect. That there's a grey area, because it's very difficult for us to... Now, let's take the example of the mismatch between the CEB and PUCSL. PUCSL considered 2016 rates, CEB considered 3-year average. So that gives a clear different figure, because the prices were changing. So the way you interpret, you get the result. But in a long-term plan, it's not the current prices. The trend is most important. So that's why we say we have to get rid of these biasness towards any of the technologies. We have to be frank, and we have to think about the economic cost.
Just one quick question. Now, the Cabinet has superseded an independent commission, the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, and has approved a new so-called energy policy.
No, that has not happened, because the paper submitted by the ministry, the principles are same, but they are going beyond the policies and trying to include certain numbers.
Either way, they said that there was going to be no more coal initially, and now they are factoring in coal. So whether you call that a change in the policy or the plan, the fact of the matter is that there is now coal.
Now
I have a simple question to ask you. I was just thinking of some things, and these are areas that you have been involved in as well. Over the past 3 years, we've seen several things happening. What do you think has been the greatest betrayal by Yahapane? Electoral reforms, the bond scam, or energy policy?
All three. In addition, there are a number of other issues as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abegurandana.
Right, thank you very much, gentlemen, and the lady for... We need to go for a short commercial break, Charita, but I'll give you 30 seconds to pose a question.
Yeah, Dr. Bhattacharya, now the Sampur plant, you gave an undertaking to the Supreme Court that it would be withdrawn. But now you're recommending coal back. So what's the point in withdrawing one coal plant and proposing another?
This is actually completely misunderstanding. There was a two coal power plant in Sampur. One is 1200 megawatt from Japanese assistance and the 500 megawatt from Indian assistance. There was a social and political pressure comes to this site. We had a site there. When we go after this war is over, the people surrounded this area, 200 families living on the site. It was basically purely they stopped on a social and political base and not anything else. So in our plan, there are 1,700 megawatt of coal is already there in the plant. Then we stop that one. So that 1,700 should come some brother. That's what happening now. Because the CB plan was to have a mix of plant and which was stopped at the Sampur must come somewhere. That's what they say. It never in the written document anywhere is a coal is stopped completely. They say Sampur is not allowed to have a coal. That's what they say. So the 2008 our energy policy already called it there. Now here this cabinet paper.
So a coal plant not good for one particular location, how can it be good for another location?
Always that is the case. That this Norachal coal power plant was initially proposed to Hambantota, finally it would move to Rinkomli, all was moving around later after 10 years later only came to Norachole. That's how it is always. Always power plants after moving around all over the place. This site location is not easy.
Thank you very much.
When I am listening to Mr. Bhattagoda, I feel that President Maithripala Sirisena has lied to Narendra Modi when he visited down there with the present Austin Fernando. What we learned from them is that they said no to Sampur and most importantly, no more coal plants.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kirti, for your thoughts as well. We're now going for a short commercial break. I want to pose a question to Dr. Vijay Kumar Banda, but I'll do that after we go for a short commercial break and come back. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. I start off the final round with engineer Dr. H.M. Vijay Kumar Banda, Chief Engineer Transmission Planning CEB. We all know now the Sampur coal power plant, which was supposed to be funded by the Indian government, is not happening. That's clear, right, Dr. Banda? Right, fine. The coal power plant that you all have proposed in Foul Point, who is building that?
Yeah, that will be basically under competitive bidding.
And there is no country or no institution that has already placed their bids for that.
The president, yes.
The Dr. Vijay Kumar Banda, let's talk about the future of power in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Do you believe that there is an energy crisis in Sri Lanka at present?
I think at present, because if you are going with this trend, because you can see after 2014, so we have not built any the low cost conventional power, the large scale conventional power plant. So therefore, the price, if you do not build low cost power plant, that will be replaced by high cost emergency power plant, which will be about 28 rupees per kilowatt hour. So then what is happening is the cost is going high and high. So there may be break even points that we cannot go like that way.
Now there is.
So therefore, the best thing is to implement the plant in the schedule.
Now there are many development activities taking place in Colombo at present.
Yes.
Where do you intend to find the power for all these development projects that are coming up?
Yeah, that's why the port city prediction is in the 2025, so it will be about, they are expecting about 300 megawatt. This is like a large power plant. So therefore we have to ready for that. So then, if you see the lead time of building a power plant, at least a combined cycle plant for the open cycle 1 year, then for the closed cycle it will be 2 years. So like that, we definitely have to implement the
so
power
given all this, isn't it better to put up a LNG power plant which is cost effective and which can be commissioned very quickly?
Yeah, that's the reason. So the cost effective in the sense that we have done, we have planned it. So LNG power plant in 2019 and then 2021, and after that we have the coal based power plant. So that is the energy mix we are proposing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vijay Kumar Banda, representing the Ceylon Electricity Board. I now move my attention to Dr. Janaka Ratnasri, Consultant Energy Sector. So you just heard what Dr. Vijay Kumar Banda said. There is a plan. We will have a few LNG power plants and then will come the coal power plant. Given the fact, Dr. Ratnasri, when you go home after tiring, a very very difficult evening or very tiring evening, you go home and you switch on the light, would you ever think where this energy is going to be sourced from? Would you think? Would you give it a second thought? If you think it's cold, will you switch off the light and just not on it? Would you think twice?
Well, most people may not think, but then we have to be conscious of that. Especially now, people who have their rooftop solar panels will know then they get their electricity from the solar energy. But in response to what Dr. Jagambanda said, why do they talk only of the base case of the plan? Now the CEB plan has number of cases: base case, high demand case, low demand case, and no coal case. So why don't they talk about the no coal case, which was developed by the CEB itself, and that has all gas power plants, and that's the one that was approved by the PUCSL with some modifications. So why do they only talk about the base case? So when you say their plan includes all those cases. So they should also talk about that gas power plants being added to the system, which the union says if they do that, that will become unstable and all that. In fact, they say they use the word manipulating the energy mix. So why do they talk about only the base case? They must be fair and say, because that is their own plan. That no coal plan is their own plan.
Thank you very
and
much.
Now they don't mention about it. And
Thank you, Dr. Janagwata
I can understand.
Consultant energy sector. I now move my attention to Asoka Begunavaradhan, chairman of SEMA. Asoka, in all this, what you realize is something is not right. Is it the administration? Is it the coalition government? Is it the policies that we're talking about? Something is not right. That's for sure. That's certain. My question to you is, why are we locking horns on coal and we're locking horns about LNG? Why can't we come into a common agreement, common consensus, and do what is best for Sri Lanka?
That's exactly what should happen, because now, as you raised the question, we are facing a severe power crisis. Even today, we are purchasing emergency power, meaning that we are going for the most expensive option. Now, if you do not have a proper plan until 2025 to meet the increase in demand, because we will not have a coal plant even when we take a decision by 2025. So what we need to have is, we will be spending a lot of money for capital cost as well during this next 5-6 years. If we are to retire them earlier with a coal plant, it will of no use. So what is needed is, we need to accelerate the renewable energy which is scattered, which can be easily connected to the grid at a faster rate, and to complement that, we need to go for LNG plant by 2021 or so. But the sad situation is, we can discuss about the long-term plan, but the issue is, even at present, mainly under the present government, all the renewable projects are not moving as fast as earlier. So there's a attempt by some of those engineers with vested interest to hold these renewable energy projects moving, and then replace that with most expensive oil-fired power plants, citing a long-term solution of coal. So we need to reverse this. We cannot meet the increase in demand by 2020, 2023 with coal. So we have to go we have to fast track the renewable energy programs. Rooftop solar, it's not moving now, because there are a number of measures taken to reduce the rate of increase of rooftop solar programs. Likewise, renewable energy sector, most of these projects now on hold.
Yeah, but the president had an event called the Surya Bala Sangrami as well.
Yes.
So you're saying all this is a farce?
Well, we had a good program, but now what CEB engineers are doing, they are delaying connecting to those grids, and then they have stopped this ADB scheme. All those things are happening not because of politicians, not because of policy issues, but because of certain people with vested interest within the CEB.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Asoka Bekudumadan, Chairman of Strategic Enterprise Management Agency. When Asoka says about vested interest, Kirti, my question to you is, you are very vocal. Is there anyone that you know within the CEB or even the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy who have vested interest?
I mean, when we talk about the power and energy sector, the first thing what we see is corruption. I'll go into this Lanka coal company judgment by the Supreme Court. It says, shock the conscience of the court. So that Lanka coal comes with the shock the consensus of the court. Then the Keravalapitia power plant. It says the technical evaluation committee, bidder 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they are saying they are not qualified. But now they are given a chance to do the thing. Norachole, 27 recommendations made, actions made, not a single action is taken on. The price of the per unit price, some says 1465, the engineer says something else. So the issue is very, very big. Then going back to Keravalapitia power plant, I mean, it is about scheduled to start operations by next year, but it is not going to happen. Who is responsible? The power generation plan, the Public Utility Commission has asked Mr. Batakoda 3 times, 2017 January, March, June, for their proposals. Not a single letter was answered. Then, after this particular proposal came, and there's another requirement. In the other hand, the unions, now they try to sell. I mean, this proposal was approved by the cabinet last month, this month, of course. Then, I mean, they try to implement what they proposed in 2017. Right? So, it's a very same game plan. They are having a mastermind behind that, and maybe, I mean, they are playing with a master plan to get what they want. It is not the country want, but something the people vested interest want.
Thank you very much, Kirti, on anti-corruption front. I now move my attention to Dr. BMS Batakoda, Secretary, Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Dr. Batakoda, at the end of the day, excuse me, at the end of the day, people's aspirations have to be met. At the end of the day, everyone is going to point the finger at you and say, where is the energy, where is the power required? But finally, the onus is with you. You have to make sure the environment is also protected. Where do you stand at this point of time on all these respects? Environment, energy, future requirement, energy crisis.
See, you have to understand, the government and the ministry have listened to everybody. There are various groups. As I mentioned earlier, some really wanted the coal, some wanted LNG, some wanted renewable, and so on and so forth. In the debate, we must agree together. As you correctly earlier mentioned, why don't we work together? Unless we do this, as what happened now, we have pushed to liquid-based power. Oil, diesel, that's what happened. End of the day, we fight between LNG and coal, all these things. Finally, who win is the diesel lobby, whatever. That we have to stop this. So, government side, we have to make sure that people get electricity. There can't be any power crisis. We have got to work very strongly with all the partners. We have a large number of projects in pipeline. There are 400 megawatt new solar plant coming, 200 megawatt rooftop coming, another 400 megawatt upon wind coming. Then the Umavia and all these things, hydropower, another 300 megawatt coming. Now, 500 megawatt, which is the 300 megawatt LNG plant with Japan, another 300 megawatt LNG plant with India, another 400 megawatt power plant in Hambantota, and plus the tender we are talking about. There are 4 LNG power plants will be commissioned in 2021-22. There are no issue about it. The coal plant we are talking about is after 22 or something like this. So there are large number of power plants are scheduled. Those 4 LNG power plants have already been negotiated and finalized, ready to implement.
Very quickly, very quickly, Dr. Batakoda. We just have viewers sending in a question. Is there a conflict of interest of CEB engineers where Lanka transformers whose subsidiaries are in power plants with oil-based? Is there a conflict of interest?
Oil-based?
Oil-based means fuel-based, crude oil-based.
Conflict of interest, Lanka transformers and CEB, I didn't understand.
Is there a conflict of interest of CEB engineers via Lanka transformers whose subsidiaries are in power plants?
And no such conflict of interest per se, but you are talking about the bidding, tendering.
Absolutely.
So there are one opinion, this new LNG tender which Keith was talking about is, in that one subsidiary of Lanka transformers also bidded. Some people are talking so many things that is have a conflict of interest, but in the bid document we allow them to also bid.
Thank you very much, Dr. Suren Batakoda, Secretary to the Ministry of Power and Renewable Energy. Thank you very much, Dr. Janaka Ratnasri, for joining us this evening. Dr. Suren Batakoda, Asoka Begunwardana, and Keith Tennakon, as well as Dr. Vijay Konbanda from the CEB. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. Thank you very much, Nadeem. Thank you very much, Charita, for joining us this evening on the show. At the end of the day, to be very honest and fair by everyone, Dr. Batakoda, people are waiting that the right decision is taken for Sri Lanka. It is important that we have the right energy. There is no energy crisis in Sri Lanka. Also, to ensure that the environment is protected, because this nation is for the future generations of Sri Lanka and not just for the next 10 to 15 years. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us again on the show. I leave you tonight with a quote, as I always do. The past cannot be changed. The future is yet in your power. Take care and good night.